Yesterday was a very busy day for me, Friday, because I don't like to film on the weekends. I like to spend time with Adrian, with Ula, because it's a working week, it's super busy. So I got Adrian ready for nursery, and we live in the country. When I'm taking him to nursery, I'm teaching him gratitude. Adrian, what are we grateful for? I'm grateful for Daddy, I'm grateful for the trees, for the birds, for the leaves, for the fresh air, for life. We're grateful for you. So that was my Friday morning. And now with my beautiful Fumi Nation, it's come to that stage where you guys send me messages on my DMs all the time. But you get that frequency when it just goes ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, and you know something is going down. Something very shocking. Somebody passed away. They want me to do this topic on sister to sister. For me, we are missing story time. All kinds of requests. But when the frequency is more than normal, then I know something has gone down. I couldn't reach my phone because I was holding Adrian. I looked at my watch and it was something Kevin Samuels. I didn't read it all the way and I just assumed that Kevin had made another controversial video. I dropped Adrian off and then I decided to get some things for the house. As we women do, you're multitasking. So I circled to the grocery store, got some stuff, and then made my way back home. Right now, I'm filming Real Housewives of Lagos. I'm filming Real Housewives of Atlanta. You guys have a couple of other requests that you want me to do. And I'm trying to wrap up Young, Famous, and African. So I came to the office and I was just about to start filming Real Housewives of Atlanta when I actually looked at my phone and it said that Kevin Samuels had passed away at 57. Some said 56. And I was in absolute shock and I did not believe it. I did not believe it. I checked TMZ, I checked the Shade Room, they didn't have the story. But when I Googled, some things came up. And those sites said story developing. Kevin Samuels, as we all know, was a controversial YouTuber, very slim, well-dressed, and berated black women a lot of the time. And it was the condescending fashion in which he did it. Because there were a lot of things that I did agree with. It was the delivery. There was no empathy, there was no patience, there was no compassion. But this is what made him a YouTube sensation. I've gotten a lot of information more about him now because I decided to wait. Because I wanted to make sure that this was not from his haters. And that's where I'm getting to. He had a lot of haters and he had a lot of worshippers. The worshippers were the men who felt that he said a lot of the things they did not have the courage to say without getting into trouble or thrown out of their house or thrown out of a relationship. Kevin Samuels could say it. He was a single man. He had been married twice. He had children. His mother, unfortunately, found out about his demise through social media, but she confirmed his passing. And when he passed away, I am constantly reminded life is precious. The first shocking passing for me that I really was like, oh, wow, I'll never forget was Elvis Presley. I think I was 7 or 8 and my parents were glued to the television. We lived in Scotland at the time. And then Michael Jackson. And then Kobe Bryant. It constantly reminds me that we are all God's children. That you cannot look up to anybody, no celebrity, no YouTuber, myself included. Because when God tells you this is your time to come on upstairs, it's time for you to come on upstairs. I have a sore throat. Please don't take it that I'm mourning Kevin Samuels. Absolutely not. I have a sore throat. Kevin Samuels gained success very rapidly in his 50s. I admire that because I tell you guys all the time, you can start anytime and you will be sensational. McDonald's started McDonald's in his 50s. 54, 55. He started then, maybe even 59, I can't remember. But he was in his 50s. And he gained traction very quickly by being controversial. That was how he really garnished the numbers by being controversial and saying things that were really condescending about women. You're a 4 at best. You guys remember that episode. I think he garnished about 2 point something million for that episode alone. As much as he berated women, if you look at his analytics, 75% of his followers were women. He earned north of $3 million on the backs of berating women. Just the other day, just last week, some of you had come to me and said, Fumi, please do an episode, please do an episode. As a matter of fact, I think I put it up on my Instagram, and he had talked about if you were single and 35, you were passed over. It was over for you. And I felt that perhaps I would do that to give you guys all the support and all the hope, because I am a living, breathing example that that is not true. I met Ula at 39. I had no kids. And he married me. I got married at 40.
If you have made it to 35 years old and you're unmarried, you are a leftover woman. A leftover woman. You are what is left. Men know that there's something like you're 35, unmarried. Something wrong with you. That's where men automatically come in.
My 40s and my 50s have been the best decades of my living, breathing life. It cannot even be compared to my 20s and 30s. My 20s and 30s were a hot mess. My 40s and 50s, I am living my life. The happiest I have ever been. And I want you guys to know that. Kevin Samuels spoke also for a lot of men out there. He thinking like that also lets you know a lot of men think like that. But you cannot date or marry men like Kevin. Having said that, I also heard about and I read a lot of hate about his death, dancing on his grave. I just don't have that kind of energy for it. I don't think it's necessary. As the story began to unravel, we found out that he had met a nurse the day before who he did not know prior. She went with him to his flat. They spent the night. By her name, she is not black. And in the early hours of the morning, he complained that he had chest pains. Before she could say whoop-de-doo, he fell on top of her. And he was unresponsive when she called the paramedics and the police. For a man who kept on telling his ladies that called in for advice, "You'll die alone," he had such short patience. Again, it was the condensation I couldn't stand. The way he talked to these women, and for whatever reason, bless your hearts, you just perhaps wanted validation from him. Because he reminds me very much of the Simon Cowells. Remember how he was? You could hear a pin drop when Simon Cowell would give his opinion. The same thing with Howard Stern. It was the controversy that drove his channel to the huge success. In pandemic, he grew Instagram 1.2 million followers, YouTube 1.4 million followers. As we all know, the women are the consumers. We are the consumers more than men. But it was ironic, a man who berated black women so very much, the majority of his followers were black women. And he would say, "You would die alone if you didn't take this advice. Ma'am, look for somebody within your bracket." He was right. He was right. Again, it was how he said it. Don't build these extraordinary expectations for you. Come down a bit and you will find happiness beyond compare. How ironic. The man who spewed that you will always die alone died worse than being alone. He died in the arms of a stranger who did not even want to be there. As soon as the paramedics came, she was out. And then, not only a stranger, a woman. So for me, I feel that he was served. He was truly served exactly what he delivered. Born of a woman. And I find empathy for his mother. It was only his mother that has been mentioned. Father has not yet been mentioned. I don't know whether his father is alive or his father was in his life, but it was his mother who confirmed his passing. Born of a woman, and you spewed so much disdain for women. Did you try to help women? I don't think so, because there would be empathy, there would be compassion. Hence why Sister to Sister has grown so very rapidly above all else on my channel, because I inject passion, because I understand. And where I don't understand, it's not for me to judge. I remove judgment out and I say, sis, you know what? Let's break it all the way down, so that when we get to that hiccup for you, I can stitch it up for you and say, this is how you got to do it to get over this bridge. He didn't have time for it. He dressed up so very well. He looked fit and healthy, even though I heard now that he was a cancer survivor. And so his passing was shocking, because he was here one day and he's absolutely gone the next. And that, my darlings, is life. Life is so very short. Life is what? Life is short. Love your family. Spend time with your loved ones. Don't waste time for those that don't give a damn about you. Don't waste time with people that don't care about you across the board. Don't idolize people that you do not know their personal lives. If you had told me that who would pass away next, like a lot of us, I would not have put Kevin Samuels on the list. Not at all. I was under the impression that it would be a matter of time before he would have his show. He was on all the radio channels when you're driving to work in New York. My friends were telling me this. So it was as if his star was bright and he was going places. But God is the one that will tell us what we are all gonna be and do. Nobody is exempt. No matter how great you might look on this earth, the coffin is the same size and we're all gonna be buried 6 feet deep. May his soul rest in peace. I don't wish death on anybody. He did not affect me that much for me to dance on his grave. And I think that we should take the high road, not because of what he did or who he was, but because of who we are. Because really and truly, it's because of how fabulous I am. I don't need that energy, and I don't need to put that energy out there. I'm going to focus all of that energy to my son. Every morning, be grateful for life, because this is a constant reminder that life is not given to all of us as we assume. I want to grow old. I want to have gray hair on my head. And I want to see Adrian with his family and his children. I want to live to be in my 90s before I pass on. And I know my work is done. I can go home now. I don't want to live a short life. Kevin Samuels did. If you ask him, if he had had the opportunity to say, how would you want to live your life going forward, knowing that this would be an option, I know he would have checked out right away and said, no. Let me pass on all I'm saying now. I want to live a life. I want to live a long life. I would not have wanted to die in this humiliating fashion. In the arms of a woman, a strange woman that I had picked up the night before, that I showed no honor. I used her body to feed my bodily needs. God is great. God is so great. You have to fear him. You have to stay humble. Don't look up to nobody. With all the money that he made, he couldn't take it with him. I don't know who will show up for his funeral apart from his family and a few friends. It's very humbling. Very, very humbling. And I send my deepest condolences to his mother. I'm a mother. And it's not necessary to dance on his grave. God took care of everything, as we can clearly see. I'll see all of y'all soon. Be careful out there.